Greetings, friends. Welcome to an animation process video. We're gonna get started with the rigging process of this whole thing. So normally in the studio, the rig would already be provided by the rigging department, but because this is a one-man show, I am handling that portion. As a bonus, you get to see the whole process of what goes behind making an animation rig. Using ToonBoom, of course. As you can see, there's a section on the top right there that's got these confusing looking nodes that tangle between each other. Now, typically in a studio setting, I would meet up with my team and the director, and we'd watch the animatic that would come from, for example, let's say Disney. Then I'd move over to my desk. I'd watch the scene that I've been given and watch it over and over and over and over again. I'd listen to the audio, see how I can tell the story in the best way. I also contextually keep in mind what is going on in the particular segment of the episode. Moving on from that, we're gonna go to the next stage, which is posing. So usually I start by solidifying the first pose that I see in the animatic, which is in the top right corner of my scene over here. I put down some keyframes exactly where they are placed in my timeline, according to the animatic. It's really important that I match the animatic as much as possible, so I make sure that my rig feels like it fits in the space provided in the background. And to help with that, I drew a floor grid on the ground to make sure that he's properly grounded. Usually the posing process starts with the first pose, making it as solid as possible. Then I solidify the last pose, again making it as solid as possible. Gradually I make my way towards the middle of the scene, adding as much contrast between each pose. I'm basically manipulating like every single one of these shapes within this George build that I made, and that's gonna really keep the rig feeling alive and full of energy and not making things look stiff. The posing process is actually the biggest bulk of the work. Here you can actually see what my export looked like at the end of that process. After the approval of my supervisor, I'm ready to start keyframes. I did get some notes from my friend Kevin, who gave me some great feedback. It's usually a good idea to get notes at this phase just before keyframes because it's so much harder to make fixes and backtrack right after your keyframes are done. So usually I'll play back the animation more and more, thinking about the motion that I'm trying to get across. It's at this point where I decide the timing and the speed of the scene. Where do I want things to feel fast? Where do I want things to feel slow? I keep things moving on an arc to make sure that it feels super flowy and smooth. I add smear frames, especially with this animation, just because I really wanted to push that he was really excited about eating that Cheerio, and I wanted to get that exaggerated sort of feeling across from the animatic, the tone or the accents of the dialogue. So if a person is talking really low, sometimes I'll draw really exaggerated squashes, or if the character is talking really high pitch all of a sudden, then I will make their poses stretch up slightly more. Eventually I did get carried away with this animation with the keyframes. I added quite a lot. I hope some of you have been looking at the timeline. You can see that it is full of keyframes, full of pink little dots. Each of those represent a new drawing that is showing exposure in the scene. During the key process, I'm also manipulating the drag. So that would be things like the whiskers, the ears, the nose sometimes, or the hands sometimes. All those pieces are moving at a slightly different rate. Alright, so keys are done. Let's see it. Nice. The next stage is in-betweening. Now, this is the easiest part because most of the work has already been completed. The keyframes from earlier work as anchor points for where the in-betweens are gonna go. I keep an eye on the space between my drawings at this point the most. And if the scene in question has dialogue, here is where I would do some lip sync animation as well. At this point, I messed around with the tail a lot because it just was not working with the rest of the action. Now for fun, let's have a look at what the posing stage looked like. The keyframes. And now the final animation. I hope you guys found this video helpful. I tried to keep it as basic and simple as possible because I'm sure a lot of you have very short attention spans. I know I do. Whether you're a new ToonBoom animator, a student, or maybe just somebody who's very curious about animation. Regardless, thanks for watching, and I'll hope to see you guys soon. Bye!